Majority Whip.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the quorum call be vitiated.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I also ask that unanimous consent to waive the mandatory quorum call in relation to the Benton nomination.
Without objection.
Mr. President, yesterday I was in the Oval Office with the President of the United States, and President Trump signed into law 5 appropriations bills, and as a result, 96% of the federal government is funded through the end of the fiscal year. That's good news for the American people. We accomplished all of this through the normal legislative process, bill going through the House, through the Senate, and then to the White House. This is how Congress is supposed to work. The Appropriations Committee, led by Senator Susan Collins of Maine, made it happen here in the Senate. Now, this is a welcome change for how things were done in the past during the Democrat administration. Today, Republicans work to continue to fully fund the last 4% of government, and that's the Department of Homeland Security. The Department of Homeland Security is charged with one of the federal government's most basic duties, and that's to keep Americans safe. The Department of Homeland Security enforces our nation's immigration laws. It oversees TSA agents. It directs the Federal Emergency Management Agency. It commands the United States Coast Guard, and it protects our nation from cyber attacks. Republicans are ready to fully fund the Department of Homeland Security. We're ready to do it to the end of the fiscal year, and we have been ready to do it for weeks. Democrats are holding the funding hostage. Democrats have an unreasonable and growing list of demands. Democrats' demands would undermine law enforcement, and Democrats' demands would make our nation less safe. One of the Democrats' most dangerous demands is for local police to ignore federal immigration law. Now, Democrats in Congress and Democrats who run big cities do not want the law enforced. They have proven it by their words and by their actions. For years, the Democrats have been the party of defund the police. Democrats have now taken it a step further. Now they are the party of defund American security. The debate is about much more than federal funding. It's about whether federal law is enforced or ignored. It's about whether our communities are safe or not. 78% of Americans want to deport illegal immigrant criminals. Americans support more cooperation between local and federal officials. This applies specifically to deporting illegal immigrant criminals. Americans also say that local jails should transfer criminal illegal immigrants to federal officials. And let me point out, Mr. President, in today's Washington Post, and I have a copy of it right here, of their editorial page, the Washington Post this morning, February 4th, 2026, Congress has its work cut out on DHS funding. They start a paragraph that says something else Schumer says he wants is to put an end to roving patrol. Senator Schumer just spoke here on the floor of the United States Senate. The editorial said Democrat-run cities should hand over dangerous illegal immigrants in their jails instead of hiding behind sanctuary policies. Washington Post this morning advising the Democrats, and specifically Senator Schumer by name, that we need more cooperation, not less, which is what we're getting from Democrat-run cities in big Democrat bastions and promoted by each and every one of the Democrats on the floor of the United States Senate. We need more cooperation. We've gotten it in places because of the law, and specifically the Lake and Riley law, in which, Mr. President, you were one of the co-sponsors and advocates and worked so hard on. Because of that law, the law that Senator Katie Britt wrote, you worked with, we got passed, signed into law, DHS has detained an additional 20,000 illegal immigrants who otherwise would have been released back onto the streets in our communities. Clearly, when local officials cooperate with federal officers, the American people are safer. By contrast, Senate Democrats, and we're going to hear it again today, want to enact sanctuary city policies on a national level. People in my home state and yours hate the idea of sanctuary cities. America's cities already over a dozen Democrat-run states embrace these sanctuary city policies. So let me tell you what the liberal governor of New York now wants to do. She wants to make cooperating and coordinating with ICE illegal for the state of New York. We've seen who got elected mayor of New York City. Now the governor is following right behind him. And in Minnesota, the liberal governor and the liberal mayor of Minneapolis and the liberal attorney general openly encourage citizens to obstruct federal law. That's what they're doing in liberal bastions around the country. If Democrats had their way, every city in America would be a sanctuary city, and every city in America would be less safe. Here's why sanctuary cities are so dangerous, Mr. President. They're dangerous for the public, and they're dangerous for law enforcement. In sanctuary cities, local officials refuse to transfer illegal immigrants, even those convicted of crimes, to federal law enforcement. These convicted criminals are often released from custody back onto the streets in our communities. That means federal agents are forced to try to find these convicted criminals in the community, on the streets, instead of able to secure and pick them up in the jails. Seems a lot safer way to do it for me. Look at what's happening in New York City. Since last year, New York has released 7,000 illegal immigrant criminals instead of cooperating with federal officials. Last month, New York knowingly released a convicted sex offender. They did this instead of transferring him into federal custody, which is where he belongs. This is a criminal who has already been deported before and got back into the country. Remember Joe Biden, 10,000 a day coming into the country. Criminals, drug dealers, illegal immigrants who were part of criminal cartels. We had it all. Well, federal officials were prepared to arrest him in New York. Nope, the local Democrats released him. Let him blend in, go away. That's what sanctuary city policies do. They put criminals back on the streets in our cities and make our cities less safe. Not a single American is safer because of the sanctuary city policies that the Democrats are promoting. When liberal cities provide sanctuary for criminals, they deny the safety of law-abiding citizens. Now, if immigration law is ignored nationwide, almost everyone who enters the United States illegally would remain here for the rest of their lives, free to do whatever they wanted, commit crimes, and not have to worry about ever being deported. Preventing cooperation between state and federal officials would make the chaos of Joe Biden's wide-open borders permanent. The American people don't want that. Now, let me tell you how this applies to the debate over the funding bill today for the Department of Homeland Security. The Democrats' list of demands is a liberal wish list. Republicans are not going to accept changes that make our communities less safe. Personally, I want to end sanctuary cities and sanctuary city policies completely, and so do many of my Republican colleagues. Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina has introduced legislation to stop state and local officials from interfering with federal immigration enforcement. It is a simple, common-sense concept. Law enforcement officers should help law enforcement officers keep our communities safe. And the safest cities in America are those that cooperate with immigration and customs enforcement. There is a clear cause and effect relationship. Congress should encourage more cooperation. Do it nationwide, not less, which is what the Democrats want. Republicans welcome this debate about immigration enforcement. Republicans are for cooperation. Democrats, they're the party of chaos. Republicans are for enforcing the law. Democrats are for sanctuary cities, and once again side with illegal immigrants, while Republicans stand on the side of making America more safe. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.